Valle de Allende, El Corazón de México. Written by Jason Stewart and read for you by Nicalia. Valle de Allende. A portrait of peace and community. Introduction. The quiet heart of Chihuahua. There is a quality to the air in Valle de Allende that cannot be easily described to those who have never breathed it. It's not simply the clean desert breeze that sweeps down from the Sierra Madre Occidental, nor is it merely the absence of urban noise and chaos. It is something deeper, a sense of rootedness, of time moving at its proper pace, of a community that knows itself and is content with that knowledge. Valle de Allende, nestled in the southern reaches of Chihuahua, in the noroeste region of Mexico, is a place where peace is not an abstract concept, but a lived reality. It is woven into the fabric of daily life, visible in the unhurried conversations between neighbors, in the way elders are greeted with genuine respect, in the rhythm of work that follows the seasons rather than the demands of distant markets. This book is written for those of us who call this valley home, who walk these streets and know these faces. It is an attempt to capture something essential about our community, not to explain it to outsiders, but to reflect back to ourselves what we already know in our bones. That we are fortunate to live in a place where heritage and tradition are not museum pieces, but living forces that shape how we greet each morning and bid farewell to each evening. Valle de Allende is peaceful not because nothing happens here, but because what happens here matters. The harvest, the festival, the wedding, the funeral. These are not interruptions to life, but life itself. In a world that increasingly values speed over substance, our community has maintained something precious, the understanding that a good life is built slowly, with attention to detail, with respect for those who came before, and with care for those who will come after. Roots in the earth. The historical heritage of Valle de Allende. The ancient landscape. Long before Valle de Allende bore its current name, this land was home to indigenous peoples who understood its rhythms intimately. The valley, with its seasonal rivers and fertile soil, provided sustenance in a region that could be unforgiving. Archaeological evidence suggests that various indigenous groups, including ancestors of the Tarahumara and other northern Mexican peoples, moved through this area, leaving traces of their presence in the form of tools, pottery, and the knowledge of which plants could heal and which could harm. The landscape itself tells stories. The mountains that ring our valley have witnessed centuries of human endeavor, the careful cultivation of maize and beans, the herding of animals, the building of shelters that worked with the climate rather than against it. Our ancestors, both indigenous and later mestizo, learned to read the land like a book, understanding when the rains would come, where water could be found even in drought, and how to coax life from soil that seemed, to the uninitiated, impossibly dry. This deep knowledge of place did not disappear with the arrival of Spanish colonizers. Instead, it merged with new agricultural techniques, new animals, and new ways of organizing community life. The result was something uniquely Mexican, a synthesis that honored what worked while adapting to new realities, the colonial period, and the birth of community. The formal establishment of Valle de Allende as a recognized settlement came during the colonial period, when the Spanish crown sought to organize the vast northern territories of New Spain. The valley's reliable water sources and agricultural potential made it an attractive location for settlement. Spanish colonizers, along with indigenous peoples and mestizos, began to establish more permanent communities, building the infrastructure that would support generations to come. The name Allende itself connects us to the broader story of Mexican independence. Ignacio Allende, one of the great heroes of the independence movement, lent his name to our valley. A reminder that even in this remote corner of Chihuahua, we are part of the larger Mexican story. Our ancestors participated in that struggle for self-determination, and the values of independence and self-reliance that characterized that era continue to shape our community's character. During the colonial period and into the early years of Mexican independence, Valle de Allende developed the basic patterns that still define it today. The plaza became the heart of community life. The church, with its bells marking the hours and calling people to worship, provided not just spiritual guidance, but a gathering place where news was shared and decisions were made collectively. Families established themselves on particular plots of land, beginning multi-generational connections to specific places that continue to this day. They are living memory, passed down through grandparents to grandchildren, shaping our understanding of resilience and community solidarity, the Revolutionary period and its legacy. The Mexican Revolution of 1910 to 1920 touched every corner of Mexico, and Valle de Allende was no exception. The Revolutionary period was a time of upheaval, of questioning old hierarchies, of demanding land reform and social justice. While the violence and chaos of those years brought hardship, they also reinforced certain values that remain central to our community. The importance of land ownership for ordinary families, the rejection of extreme inequality, and the belief that communities should have a say in their own governance. Stories from the Revolutionary period are still told by the oldest members of our community. Tales of hardship and courage, of families hiding food from passing armies, of young men who went off to fight and sometimes did not return. These stories are not ancient history. The post-revolutionary land reforms had a profound impact on Valle de Allende. The ejido system, which granted communal land rights to rural communities, allowed many families to establish themselves as small-scale farmers. This created a relatively egalitarian social structure compared to other parts of Mexico, where large haciendas continued to dominate. The result was a community of small landholders, each with a stake in the valley's prosperity, each invested in maintaining good relations with neighbors upon whom they might depend in times of need. The modern era: continuity and change. The 20th century brought significant changes to Valle de Allende, though perhaps fewer and slower than in many other parts of Mexico. Electricity arrived, transforming evening routines and making certain kinds of work possible that had been impractical before. Roads improved, connecting us more reliably to larger towns and cities. Schools expanded, offering more children the opportunity for education beyond the basics. Yet through all these changes, Valle de Allende maintained its essential character. Unlike communities that experienced rapid industrialization or became bedroom communities for larger cities, our valley remained primarily agricultural, primarily small-scale, primarily focused on the rhythms of planting and harvest, rather than the demands of factory whistles or office schedules. This continuity is not the result of isolation or backwardness, as outsiders sometimes assume. Rather, it reflects conscious choices made by generations of residents who valued certain qualities of life: community cohesion, connection to land, time for family and tradition, over the potential economic gains that might come from more radical transformation. We have not rejected modernity. We have adapted it to our purposes, rather than allowing it to reshape us entirely. The fabric of tradition, cultural heritage in daily life, religious traditions, and community celebrations. The Catholic faith, introduced during the colonial period and deeply rooted in our community, provides much of the structure for our collective life. But the Catholicism practiced in Valle de Allende is not simply imported from Rome or Mexico City. It is a local expression of faith, shaped by our particular history and needs. The church calendar organizes the year into a rhythm of ordinary time and special celebration. Each Saint's Day is an opportunity for community gathering, for special foods, for remembering particular aspects of our shared heritage. The feast of our community's patron saint is not merely a religious observance, but a homecoming, drawing back those who have moved away for work or education, reuniting extended families, and reaffirming the bonds that hold us together. Holy Week is perhaps the most profound expression of our community's religious life. The processions through our streets, the solemn reenactments of Christ's Passion, the vigil of Holy Saturday, and the joyous celebration of Easter Sunday. These are not performances for tourists, but genuine expressions of faith and community identity. Families prepare special foods, homes are cleaned and decorated, and for those few days, the entire community moves together through a shared spiritual journey. But our religious life extends beyond the formal calendar of the church. Home altars, adorned with images of saints and photographs of deceased family members, create sacred spaces within domestic life. Prayers are offered for good harvests, for the health of children, for the souls of the departed. These practices connect us to generations past who offered the same prayers in the same spirit, creating a continuity that transcends individual lifetimes. Agricultural traditions and the rhythm of seasons. Agriculture is not simply an economic activity in Valle de Allende, it is a way of life that shapes our understanding of time, community, and our relationship with the natural world. The agricultural calendar, with its cycles of preparation, planting, cultivation, and harvest, provides a structure to the year that is more fundamental than any civil calendar. Spring is a time of hope and hard work. Fields must be prepared, seeds selected and blessed, irrigation channels cleared and repaired. This work is often communal, with neighbors helping each other, knowing that the favor will be returned when their own fields need attention. The first planting is a moment of faith. Faith that the rains will come, that the seeds will germinate, that the work of our hands will be blessed with abundance. Summer brings the intense work of cultivation, weeding, irrigating, watching for pests and diseases. It is also a time of waiting, of watching the sky for signs of rain, of walking through fields in the early morning or late evening to check on the progress of crops. There is an intimacy in this relationship with growing things, a daily attention that creates knowledge that cannot be learned from books. Harvest time is the culmination of the year's work, a time of both exhaustion and celebration. The successful harvest is never taken for granted. Too many things can go wrong. Too many factors are beyond human control. When the harvest is good, there is genuine gratitude, expressed in prayers of thanksgiving and in the sharing of abundance with those whose harvest was less successful. The crops themselves connect us to our ancestors. Maize, beans, squash. These are the same crops that sustained indigenous peoples in this valley for centuries before the Spanish arrived. The techniques for growing them, for preparing them, for storing them through the winter, have been refined over generations. When we plant maize, we are participating in a tradition that stretches back into the mists of time, connecting us to the very origins of Mexican civilization. Culinary traditions, the taste of home. Food, in Valle de Allende, is never merely fuel. It is memory, identity, love, and community made tangible. The traditional dishes of our region tell the story of our history. Indigenous ingredients and techniques merged with Spanish influences, adapted to local conditions, refined over generations, until they became uniquely ours. Tortillas, made fresh daily in most households, are the foundation of our cuisine. The process of making tortillas, soaking the maize in lime water, grinding it into masa, patting out the tortillas by hand, Cooking them on a comal is a skill passed from mother to daughter, from grandmother to granddaughter. The rhythm of hands patting masa, the smell of tortillas cooking, the sight of a stack of fresh tortillas wrapped in a clean cloth, these are the sensory experiences that define home for anyone who grew up in Valle de Allende. Chile is another essential element of our cuisine, providing not just heat, but complex flavors that transform simple ingredients into memorable meals. The varieties of chile grown and used in our valley, the techniques for roasting and preparing them, the knowledge of which chiles work best with which dishes, this is culinary wisdom accumulated over centuries. Special occasions call for special foods. Tamales, labor-intensive to prepare, and therefore reserved for celebrations, bring families together in the kitchen for hours of collaborative work. The making of tamales is a social event in itself, with stories told and gossip shared as hands work steadily through the stages of preparation. Mole, with its complex blend of chiles, chocolate, and spices, is another celebration dish. Its preparation a demonstration of culinary skill and family pride. But it is not only the special dishes that matter. The everyday meals, beans simmered with epazote, rice cooked with tomato and garlic, simple soups made rich with homegrown vegetables. These are the foods that sustain us, that connect us to the land and to each other. To eat food grown in our own valley, prepared according to traditional methods, shared with family around a table, this is to participate in a ritual of belonging that is as important as any religious ceremony. Music, dance, and oral tradition. The cultural life of Valle de Allende extends beyond the practical matters of religion and food to encompass the arts that give expression to our collective spirit. Music, in particular, plays a vital role in community life, marking celebrations, expressing emotions, and maintaining connections to our cultural heritage. Traditional Mexican music, rancheras, corridos, boleros, provides the soundtrack to our celebrations. These songs, many of them decades or even centuries old, tell stories of love and loss, of revolution and resistance, of the beauty of the Mexican landscape and the strength of the Mexican people. When these songs are played at weddings, quinceañeras, or community festivals, they create a sense of continuity with the past, reminding us that the emotions we feel, joy, sorrow, longing, pride, are the same emotions felt by our ancestors. Local musicians, often self-taught or trained within family traditions, keep these musical traditions alive. A man with a guitar, a small conjunto at a celebration, a mariachi band hired for a special occasion. These musicians are not merely entertainers, but custodians of cultural memory, passing on songs and styles that might otherwise be lost. Dance, too, is an important part of our cultural expression. Traditional dances, performed at festivals and celebrations, connect us to specific regional traditions and to the broader Mexican cultural heritage. But equally important are the informal dances at family celebrations, where multiple generations share the dance floor, where children learn by watching and imitating their elders, where the community comes together in joyful movement. Oral tradition remains strong in Valle de Allende, despite the spread of literacy and modern media. Stories are still told, tales of the revolutionary period, accounts of miraculous occurrences, humorous anecdotes about local characters, cautionary tales about the consequences of bad behavior. These stories serve multiple functions. They entertain, they educate, they reinforce community values, and they maintain a sense of connection to the past. The elders of our community are living libraries, repositories of knowledge about local history, traditional practices, family genealogies, and the proper way to do things. When we lose an elder, we lose not just a beloved individual, but a vast store of knowledge and memory. This is why respect for elders is not merely a polite custom, but a practical necessity. They are the link between past and present, the teachers who can help younger generations understand where they come from and who they are. The rhythm of daily life, how we spend our days, morning routines, and the start of the day. In Valle de Allende, the day begins early. This is not a matter of choice, but of practical necessity. The work of the day is best begun before the heat becomes oppressive, and there is always much to be done. But there is also something deeply satisfying about the early morning hours, when the air is cool and fresh, when the light is soft and golden, when the world feels new and full of possibility. In most households, the first person awake is often the woman of the house, who begins the day by lighting the fire or stove and preparing breakfast. The smell of coffee brewing and tortillas warming is the alarm clock that gently wakes the rest of the family. Breakfast is a substantial meal. Eggs, beans, salsa, fresh tortillas, perhaps some meat if the family can afford it. Fuel for the physical labor that lies ahead. Morning is also a time for tending to animals. Chickens must be fed and let out of their coops, cows or goats milked, horses or burros fed and watered. These tasks are often assigned to children, teaching them responsibility and the importance of caring for the animals that, in turn, provide for the family. As the sun rises higher, men head to the fields or to whatever work occupies them: construction, repair work, tending to irrigation systems. Women may also work in the fields, particularly during planting and harvest seasons, or they may focus on domestic tasks: washing clothes, preparing food for the midday meal, tending to kitchen gardens where vegetables and herbs are grown for family use. The morning is also a time for social connection. Neighbors greet each other as they go about their tasks, exchanging news and pleasantries. A woman walking to the store might stop to chat with several people along the way, catching up on family news, discussing community matters, or simply enjoying a moment of connection. These brief interactions, repeated daily, are the threads that weave the fabric of community life. Midday, the heart of the day. The midday meal is the main meal of the day in Valle de Allende, a tradition that reflects both practical considerations and cultural values. By midday, several hours of work have been completed, and the body needs substantial nourishment. But the midday meal is also an opportunity for family to gather, to share not just food, but conversation and connection. In many households, the entire family returns home for the midday meal. Work in the fields pauses during the hottest hours of the day. Children come home from school, and the family gathers around the table. This meal is not rushed. There is time to eat properly, to talk about the morning's events, to rest before the afternoon's work begins. The food served at midday is typically the most elaborate of the day. A soup or stew, rice, beans, meat if available, fresh tortillas, perhaps a simple dessert. The preparation of this meal is a significant undertaking, requiring hours of work. But it is work that is valued and respected. A woman who is known as a good cook brings honor to her family, and the ability to prepare delicious, nourishing meals from simple ingredients is a skill that is highly prized. After the meal, there is often a period of rest. In the heat of summer, this rest is essential, a siesta that allows the body to recover from the morning's exertions and prepare for the afternoon's work. Even in cooler seasons, this pause in the day's activities is valued, a moment to digest, to relax, to enjoy the simple pleasure of being alive and well-fed. Afternoon and evening, work and community. As the afternoon progresses and the heat begins to diminish, work resumes. In the fields, men return to their tasks: irrigating, weeding, checking on crops or animals. Women may work on tasks that were postponed during the heat of the day, washing clothes, cleaning the house, preparing food for the evening meal. But the afternoon is also a time when community life becomes more visible. Children, released from school and from the confines of the midday heat, play in the streets and plazas. Their games, many of them traditional games passed down through generations, fill the air with shouts and laughter. Adults, too, begin to emerge, sitting on porches or benches, watching the children play, conversing with neighbors. The plaza, the heart of community life, comes alive in the late afternoon and evening. People stroll around the plaza, greeting friends and acquaintances, stopping to chat, enjoying the cooler air. Vendors may set up small stands, selling snacks or cold drinks. Young people, carefully chaperoned, engage in the age-old ritual of courtship, boys and girls circling the plaza in opposite directions, exchanging glances and shy smiles. As evening approaches, families begin to gather again for the evening meal. This meal is typically lighter than the midday meal. Perhaps leftover beans and tortillas, a simple soup, bread and coffee. But like the midday meal, it is an opportunity for family connection, for sharing the events of the day, for reinforcing the bonds that hold the family together. After the evening meal, there is time for relaxation and socializing. In many households, the television may be turned on, bringing news and entertainment from the wider world. But equally common is simply sitting together, on the porch, in the courtyard, in the living room, talking, telling stories, enjoying each other's company. This time together, unhurried and unstructured, is precious, a counterbalance to the day's work and responsibilities. The weekly rhythm, market days and Sundays. While each day follows a similar pattern, the week has its own rhythm, marked by market days and Sunday observances. Market day, when vendors from surrounding areas bring their goods to sell, is an important event in the community calendar. It is an opportunity to purchase items that cannot be produced at home, to see what is available and at what price, to catch up on news from other communities. But market day is also a social event. People dress a bit more carefully, take time to browse even if they are not planning to buy much, stop to chat with vendors and other shoppers. The market is a place where information is exchanged. News of births and deaths, of upcoming celebrations, of opportunities for work, of concerns about weather or crops. It is, in many ways, the community's informal communication network, supplementing the more formal channels of church announcements and official notices. Sunday is the most distinctive day of the week, marked by church attendance and family time. In the morning, families dress in their best clothes and attend Mass, fulfilling their religious obligations and participating in the community's collective spiritual life. The church is full on Sunday mornings, with multiple generations present, grandparents, parents, children, all together in worship. After Mass, Sunday is a day of rest and family. The midday meal on Sunday is often more elaborate than on weekdays, with special dishes prepared and extended family invited to share the meal. The afternoon might be spent visiting relatives, receiving visitors, or simply relaxing at home. There is a different quality to Sunday, a sense of permission to slow down, to focus on relationships rather than tasks, to remember that life is about more than work and productivity, the bonds that hold us, community connections and social life. Family, the foundation of everything. In Valle de Allende, family is not just important, it is foundational, the primary source of identity, support, and meaning. When people introduce themselves, they often mention not just their own name, but their family connections, whose son or daughter they are, which family they belong to. This is not mere formality, but a recognition that individual identity is inseparable from family identity. Families in Valle de Allende tend to be large and multi-generational. It is common for grandparents, parents, and children to live in close proximity, often on the same property or in adjacent houses. This arrangement provides practical benefits. Grandparents can help with child care, adult children can assist aging parents, resources can be shared, but it also creates a rich family life where multiple generations interact daily. The extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, is also important. Family gatherings bring together dozens of people, creating a sense of belonging to something larger than the nuclear family. Children grow up surrounded by relatives, learning from multiple adults, playing with cousins who are as close as siblings. This extended family network provides both support in times of need and accountability. Family members look out for each other, but they also expect certain standards of behavior to be maintained. Family obligations are taken seriously in Valle de Allende. When a family member needs help, with work, with money, with care during illness, other family members are expected to provide that help. This is not seen as a burden, but as a natural expression of family loyalty. The knowledge that one can count on family in times of need provides a sense of security that no amount of individual wealth or achievement can match. But family is not only about obligation, it is also about joy. Family celebrations, birthdays, weddings, quinceañeras, baptisms, are occasions for genuine happiness, for coming together to mark important transitions and to reaffirm family bonds. These celebrations often involve elaborate preparations, significant expense, and the participation of the entire extended family. They are investments in family cohesion, reminders that we are part of something larger and more enduring than our individual lives. Compadrazgo, extending family through ritual kinship. The system of compadrazgo, ritual kinship created through the Catholic sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and marriage, extends family bonds beyond blood relations. When parents choose godparents, padrinos, for their children, they are creating a relationship that carries significant obligations and expectations on both sides. Godparents are expected to take an active interest in their godchildren's lives, to provide guidance and support, and to step in if the parents are unable to fulfill their responsibilities. In return, godparents gain the respect and affection of their godchildren and a strengthened relationship with the parents, who become their compadres, co-parents. This system creates a web of relationships that strengthens community cohesion. Through compadrazgo, families that might otherwise have little connection become linked, creating obligations of mutual support and respect. A person in Valle de Allende might have dozens of compadres, each relationship carrying its own history and expectations. The choice of godparents is not made lightly. Parents consider who would be a good influence on their child, who has the resources to help if needed, who shares their values. Being asked to be a godparent is an honor, a recognition of one's standing in the community and one's relationship with the family. Accepting the role is a serious commitment, one that will last a lifetime. Neighborliness and mutual aid. Beyond family and ritual kinship, the bonds of neighborliness are strong in Valle de Allende. Neighbors are not just people who happen to live nearby, they are part of one's daily life, people with whom one shares space, resources, and concerns. The practice of mutual aid is deeply embedded in community life. When a family faces a crisis, a death, a serious illness, a house fire, neighbors respond immediately with practical help. Food is brought to the family, assistance is offered with necessary tasks, emotional support is provided. This is not charity, but reciprocity, the understanding that today I help you, tomorrow you may help me. Even in less dramatic circumstances, neighbors help each other regularly. Tools and equipment are borrowed and lent. Advice is sought and given. Children are watched by neighbors when parents must be away. Surplus produce from gardens is shared. These small acts of mutual support, repeated countless times, create a sense of community solidarity that is one of Valle de Allende's greatest strengths. Neighborliness also involves a certain level of social accountability. Neighbors notice what is happening in each other's lives, not out of nosiness, but out of genuine concern. If a child is misbehaving, a neighbor might gently correct them or inform the parents. If someone is struggling, neighbors will notice and offer help. This social oversight can sometimes feel intrusive to those accustomed to urban anonymity, but it also provides a safety net, ensuring that no one falls through the cracks unnoticed. Community organizations and collective action. While family and neighborhood provide the foundation of social life, Valle de Allende also has various formal and informal organizations that bring people together around shared interests or concerns. These organizations play an important role in maintaining community cohesion and addressing collective needs. Religious organizations, centered around the church, are among the most important. Groups dedicated to particular saints, to maintaining the church building, to organizing religious festivals, these bring together people who might not otherwise interact regularly, creating bonds across family and neighborhood lines. Agricultural cooperatives and water user associations address the practical needs of farmers, organizing collective action around irrigation, marketing, and the purchase of supplies. These organizations require members to work together, to compromise, to think about collective good rather than individual advantage. They are schools of democracy and cooperation, teaching skills that strengthen the entire community. Women's groups, focused on various activities from crafts to community improvement projects, provide opportunities for women to socialize, to develop skills, and to exercise leadership. These groups are often the driving force behind community improvements, the beautification of the plaza, the organization of health campaigns, the establishment of educational programs. Youth organizations, often connected to schools or the church, provide structured activities for young people and help integrate them into community life. Through these organizations, young people learn about community service, develop leadership skills, and form friendships that may last a lifetime. Celebrations and festivals, community and joy. If daily life in Valle de Allende is characterized by work and routine, celebrations and festivals provide moments of collective joy, opportunities for the community to come together in shared happiness. These events are not mere entertainment, but essential expressions of community identity and solidarity. Religious festivals, marking the feast days of various saints, are the most elaborate celebrations. The community's patron saint festival, in particular, is a major event, often lasting several days and involving processions, special masses, traditional dances, music, food, and fireworks. Families who have moved away often return for this festival, making it a homecoming as well as a religious observance. Secular celebrations, Independence Day, Revolution Day, are also important community events. These patriotic celebrations, with their parades, speeches, and festivities, connect Valle de Allende to the broader Mexican nation, reminding us that we are part of a larger story. Family celebrations, weddings, quinceañeras, baptisms, while centered on particular families, often involve much of the community. Invitations are extended broadly, and attendance at these events is a way of showing respect for the family and maintaining social bonds. These celebrations can be elaborate and expensive, but they are seen as worthwhile investments in social capital, strengthening the relationships that make community life possible. Even smaller, more informal gatherings, a birthday party, a gathering of friends, a celebration of a good harvest, contribute to the sense of community. These events provide opportunities for people to relax, to enjoy each other's company, to remember that life is not only about work and obligation, but also about joy and connection. Reflections on peace. What makes Valle de Allende special? The gift of time. One of the most precious aspects of life in Valle de Allende is the relationship with time. Unlike in cities where time is fragmented into appointments and deadlines, where every moment must be productive, where there is never enough time, in Valle de Allende time moves differently. This is not to say that people in Valle de Allende are lazy or unproductive, far from it. The work of farming, of maintaining a household, of caring for family is demanding and never-ending. But there is a different quality to this work, a sense that it unfolds according to natural rhythms rather than artificial schedules. There is time for conversation, for sitting with a neighbor and talking about nothing in particular. There is time to watch children play, to observe the changing seasons, to notice the small details of daily life. There is time to prepare food properly, to eat without rushing, to rest when the body needs rest. This relationship with time is one of the things that makes Valle de Allende peaceful. The constant pressure that characterizes modern urban life, the feeling of always being behind, of never having enough time, of missing out, is largely absent here. People move through their days with a sense of purpose, but without panic, accomplishing what needs to be accomplished, but not sacrificing the quality of life in the process. The security of belonging. Another source of peace in Valle de Allende is the deep sense of belonging that comes from being part of a stable, coherent community. In a world where many people feel isolated and anonymous, where relationships are often superficial and transitory, Valle de Allende offers something increasingly rare: the experience of being known, of being part of a community where one's presence matters. This sense of belonging begins with family, but extends outward to encompass neighbors, compadres, fellow parishioners, and the community as a whole. It means that one is never truly alone. There are always people who care, who will help in times of need, who share one's joys and sorrows. But belonging also means accountability. One cannot simply do as one pleases without regard for how it affects others. One's actions reflect not just on oneself, but on one's family and, to some extent, on the community. This can feel constraining to those who value absolute individual freedom, but it also provides structure and meaning, a sense that one's life is connected to something larger than oneself. The security of belonging is particularly important for children and elders. Children in Valle de Allende grow up surrounded by people who know them and care about them, who will look out for them and guide them. Elders are not warehoused in institutions, but remain integrated into family and community life, valued for their wisdom and experience. This intergenerational continuity provides a sense of stability and permanence that is deeply reassuring. Connection to place. The peace of Valle de Allende is also rooted in a deep connection to place, to this particular valley, these particular mountains, this particular soil. Many families have lived in this area for generations, creating a relationship with the land that goes beyond mere residence. This connection to place is both practical and emotional. Practically, it means knowing the land intimately, where water can be found, which areas are best for which crops, how the weather patterns work, where the best wild plants grow. This knowledge, accumulated over generations, allows people to work with the land rather than against it, to coax abundance from what might seem to outsiders to be marginal terrain. Emotionally, connection to place means that the landscape is not just scenery, but home. The mountains that ring the valley are not just geological features, but familiar presences, as known and loved as family members. The seasonal changes, the first rains of summer, the golden light of autumn, the crisp air of winter, are not just weather, but markers of time, connecting each year to all the years that came before. This connection to place creates a sense of rootedness that is increasingly rare in a mobile, globalized world. While some young people do leave Valle de Allende in search of education or economic opportunities, many return, drawn back by the pull of home. And even those who remain away often maintain strong connections, returning for festivals and family celebrations, maintaining property in the valley, planning eventually to return. The value of simplicity. Life in Valle de Allende is, by urban standards, simple. Most people do not have great wealth or access to the endless consumer goods available in cities. Entertainment options are limited. The pace of technological change is slow. But this simplicity is not poverty or deprivation. It is a different way of organizing life, one that prioritizes different values. Instead of accumulating possessions, people invest in relationships. Instead of constant novelty, there is the satisfaction of mastering traditional skills and maintaining traditions. Instead of the stimulation of constant change, there is the peace of stability and continuity. This simplicity allows for a clarity about what matters. When life is not cluttered with endless choices and distractions, it becomes easier to focus on the essentials: family, community, meaningful work, connection to place and tradition. The result is a quality of life that, while materially modest, is rich in the things that truly matter. Challenges and resilience. It would be dishonest to portray Valle de Allende as a paradise without problems. Like all communities, we face challenges, economic pressures, the lure of migration that draws young people away, the encroachment of modern values that sometimes conflict with traditional ways, the practical difficulties of maintaining infrastructure and services in a small, relatively poor community. Climate change poses particular challenges for an agricultural community. Changes in rainfall patterns, more extreme weather events, and shifting growing seasons require adaptation and resilience. Water, always precious in this semi-arid region, becomes even more critical as competition for it increases. Economic opportunities are limited, and many families struggle to make ends meet. The temptation to migrate to cities or to the United States in search of better wages is strong, particularly for young men. This migration, while providing needed income through remittances, also strains family and community bonds, leaving behind women, children, and elders to manage without the labor and presence of adult men. Yet, Valle de Allende has shown remarkable resilience in the face of these challenges. The community has survived revolutions, droughts, economic crises, and social changes. The traditions and values that have sustained us for generations continue to provide strength and guidance. The bonds of family and community, while sometimes strained, remain strong. This resilience is itself a source of peace. Knowing that the community has weathered storms before, that the traditions and relationships that sustain us are strong and enduring, provides confidence that we will continue to endure, to adapt, to maintain what is essential, even as we change what must change. Conclusion: the enduring spirit of Valle de Allende. Valle de Allende is not frozen in time, nor is it a museum of traditional Mexican rural life. It is a living community, changing and adapting as all communities must. Young people use smartphones. Families watch television. Modern agricultural techniques are adopted when they prove useful. The community is not isolated from the modern world, but engaged with it, selectively incorporating what works, while maintaining what is valuable from the past. What makes Valle de Allende special is not that it has rejected modernity, but that it has maintained a clear sense of its own identity and values even as it changes. The community knows what it wants to preserve: the bonds of family and community, the connection to land and tradition, the quality of life that comes from living at a human pace, the peace that comes from belonging to something larger than oneself. This book has attempted to capture something of the essence of Valle de Allende: its history, its traditions, its daily rhythms, its sources of strength and peace. But words on a page can only do so much. The true understanding of what makes this community special comes from living it, from participating in the daily life of the valley, from being part of the web of relationships that constitute community. For those of us who call Valle de Allende home, this book is a mirror, reflecting back to us what we already know, but perhaps do not always articulate: that we are fortunate to live in a place where peace is not an abstract ideal, but a lived reality, where community is not a nostalgic memory, but a present fact, where tradition is not a burden, but a gift. We are the inheritors of centuries of accumulated wisdom about how to live well in this particular place. We are the beneficiaries of the sacrifices and hard work of our ancestors, who cleared the land, built the infrastructure, established the traditions, and created the community that we now enjoy. We are the custodians of this heritage, responsible for maintaining it and passing it on to future generations. The peace of Valle de Allende is not something that simply exists. It is something that must be actively maintained through the daily choices we make, through the way we treat each other, through our commitment to family and community, through our respect for tradition and place. It is created anew each day through countless small acts of kindness, cooperation, and mutual respect. As we look to the future, we face both challenges and opportunities. The world is changing rapidly, and Valle de Allende cannot and should not try to remain unchanged. But as we adapt and evolve, we must hold fast to the values and traditions that have made this community strong: the commitment to family, the practice of mutual aid, the connection to land and place, the respect for tradition, the understanding that a good life is built on relationships rather than possessions. The young people of Valle de Allende will shape the community's future. Some will leave, seeking opportunities elsewhere, and we wish them well. But we hope that many will choose to stay, or to return after gaining experience in the wider world. We hope they will see the value in what we have here, not as a rejection of progress, but as an alternative vision of what progress might mean, one that prioritizes human flourishing over economic growth, community cohesion over individual advancement, quality of life over quantity of possessions. Valle de Allende is peaceful because the people who live here have chosen peace, have chosen to prioritize relationships over conflict, cooperation over competition, tradition over novelty, community over individualism. These choices are not always easy, and they require constant renewal. But they have created something precious: a community where people know each other and care for each other, where the past is honored and the future is faced with confidence, where life unfolds at a human pace and in harmony with the natural world. This is our inheritance, our responsibility, and our gift to future generations. May we prove worthy of it. May Valle de Allende continue to be a place of peace, a community where people can live good lives, where families can flourish, where traditions are maintained and adapted, where the essential human needs for belonging, meaning, and connection are met. In a world that often seems chaotic and fragmented, Valle de Allende stands as a reminder that another way is possible, that communities can be strong and cohesive, that traditions can be living forces rather than museum pieces, that peace can be a daily reality rather than a distant dream. This is our story, our identity, our home. May it endure for generations to come. Valle de Allende, El Corazón de México. Written by Jason Stewart and read for you by Nicalia.